Hey Andy, how you doing today?
I'm doing well. It's a decent old day outside on the Sunshine Coast here in Queensland, Australia. How are you doing in
Uh,
Shanghai?
oh no, I'm actually back here
Oh,
in.
you're back.
Yeah, I'm back here. I come back here in February.
Probably bloody good timing.
That's right. As soon as the virus hit, I was like,
Yeah,
I'm out of here. So I've been back here in Newcastle since February. So yeah, so staying safe. So that's the question to you. How's it all going with you?
yeah,
With the whole coronavirus, are you staying safe, you and your family?
yeah. We are. We live in a really small little coastal town, about an hour, 15 hour and a half north of Brisbane.
Right.
And the little town is normally bustling on weekends with tourism and just families getting away, and it's been nothing. I mean, really has been absolutely nothing. The self isolation hasn't been a huge drama. I'm a homebody. I I enjoy my own company. I argue with myself and talk to myself. Happily amuse myself and my wife I've had here. Our best two mates in the world are our two Labradors. And,
Yes.
mate, it's play on here, play on the sunny coast.
Yes.
But you watch the news and you listen to the news and, mate,
Yes.
horrific, isn't it? I mean, there are so many people hurting around the world, health-wise, financially, mentally. It sort of went from, coronavirus in January was the punchline to a joke.
Yes.
And 4 weeks later, it's attacked us. And future generations are going to look back on this and say, wow. I mean, we did the plague or the Great Depression or things like that.
That's
but
right.
We're well.
That's right. And can you think of a time where it sort of stopped not only sport but like entertainment in general? Like I can't think of another time where it's just sort of totally stopped everything, right?
No, I can't think of anything even remotely like it. It's and the scary bit for me is it's globally, like it's all points of the compass. It's not just little bits here or there. You can't go for a drive up the road and escape it. It's scary shit.
Yeah, it certainly was. And when I was in Shanghai, I would go out and, in that first week, it was like, oh, okay, what is this? So we would, I put like a Twitter picture of cheering a Corona beer.
Yeah.
And I thought that was funny.
Yeah, it was at the time.
Yeah, and taking my medicine, and then all of a sudden, I had to take it off because people were getting offended by it, and people were losing their lives. So, yeah, and I'm glad that in Australia it's sort of getting a little bit better. So
yeah,
they're easing the restrictions, and what a day to do it! Like the first day, and the footy is starting back.
Yep.
So let's talk about that. We might as well get straight into it. 23 years with Fox Sports. It's probably not something that you're accustomed to. At this stage, you'd probably be preparing, for the game tonight.
At this stage, in years past, I would have been sitting in this very seat at this very computer with 500 bits of paper and 1,000 ideas, trying to condense any preparation, any notes into a format that my very simple brain can digest.
Right.
So it's an indifferent feeling at the moment. Bit sad, bit disappointed, bit confused, bit pissed off.
Yes.
But not angry. It's a business decision.
Yes.
And it's nothing personal. it just is what it is. And there's a lot of people that have lost their jobs, a lot of people that have lost their livelihood, that are struggling financially and mentally, that are in a lot worse space than me. I've dealt with it well. The one bit that got me and got me a bit, quite emotional is the outpouring of support, not only from like you expect that from your family and your loved ones, but from the general public, people that I hadn't met, people that had welcomed me into their lounge room, a couple of times a week for, every week for 23 years. Some of the messages I've got have left me in tears. It's been absolutely astonishing. And I know you Aussies don't kick a bloke when he's down, and no one's going to say, "Oh, thank God you're God, Raymond. You're, happy that you will see the arse end of you." But the outpouring has been astonishing. It's Aussies are a pretty decent bunch.
Yeah, definitely. And you can just go onto your Facebook and your social media with all the outpour of all, not just rugby league, but just people in general are just poured out with emotion, saying, and you know what, Andy, I think everybody at some stage in their lives sort of goes through this sort of period. Yeah. But you know what, it makes you stronger as a person and as a professional as well. Yeah. And you'll bounce back, mate. You've only got the 7 count here, so.
Speaking of 7 count, my good mate and one of Australia's finest, in Jeff Fennick, always tells me, tough times don't last, but tough people do. I don't know if I'm that tough person that he's talking about, but things will get better. Mate, it's not the end of the world; it's the end of a chapter in the book, and that's what it is.
And a lot of people say it in the wrestling business as well. Never say never. So who knows what might happen in the future as well. You're
exactly right. Bruce Pritchard's back, sitting alongside Vince McMahon, and the old right. He got into the Hall of Fame, and Hulk Hogan's returned. So anything is possible anywhere.
Yes. And like you think about that with the wrestling, and Goldberg, wrestled in WWF, and Brock Lesnar came back after UFC, and so there's lots of things that could happen in the future. So let's go back a little bit. Let's go back into the very early stage of Andy. You grew up in Sydney.
Yeah. Grew up in northwest Sydney in a suburb called North Rocks, Carlingford. We were right on the border. My folks bought that house in 1969 for about $34,000, and Mum is still there to this very day. It's not a house, it's a home.
Yes.
There was, mate, that was out in the sticks, and when they bought that back in 69, people were saying, "What the hell do you want to go and live out in the bush for?"
Yes.
As a result, there was a lot of empty land, a lot of building in progress, and it was the perfect suburban playground for a mischievous young kid. And we used to ride our BMX bikes every single day after school, and there'd be 50 of you jumping over fire in the local park, or playing cricket as a group, or playing footy, or throwing stones at each other, whatever it may be. But grew up out there, schooled out there, and have really fond memories of how I grew up and where I grew up. And the fact that Mum is still there and my sister's not far from there means when I do go back to Sydney, I still get a bit of a kick out of it.
It's a little bit similar to me as well. Like my mum and sister are still in the same place that they were when I grew up as well. So it's a good sort of feeling, isn't it? Sort of brings you back to reality a bit, Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah, and you graduated at Muirfield High School.
I don't know if graduation's the right term. Muirfield High School is just there in North Rocks. And back in the day, it was, I think, one of only 2 schools in New South Wales that didn't have a uniform.
Oh, right.
So the official uniform was King G's and Crystal Cylinders, along with your Dunlop volleys. It's a selective, very high academic school now.
Yeah.
But back when I attended, you'd rather play footy and have a fight than sit in the school room listening and learning.
Right.
Wonderful school, and it just a genuine bunch of blokes and girls that have all, to a large degree, all gone on to live very sound, stable, successful lives. Some wonderful family people in there. They've all got kids and some grandkids now, but very, very blessed to have gone to school with the crew that I did, and a lot of us still keep in touch today.
Yeah, right. And seriously, do you have a picture of you and those volleys and back then?
There'd be something somewhere deep in one of Mum's cardboard boxes out in the shed, rocking the mullet and cylinders.
Oh. Come on, please put it on Instagram. Just one, just.
I'll find something. Yeah.
So, is this when you started to sort of develop the passion for, your chosen sort of work field? Is this when you started, with rugby league and cricket and wrestling?
Well, the rugby league was the first love and has always been the first love, and played as a junior from under 4s up until I guess 19s.
And who did you play with, by the way?
Played with Parramatta Junior Eels and Parramatta Northern Districts down in the Paracomp, and absolutely loved it. We raced BMX competitively, both myself and my sister, not world beaters. But had a great time. We travelled to the United States several times. And mate, in terms of commentary, it was monkey see, monkey do. I'd go to the Speedway with Dad at the old Liverpool Speedway, and he's the commentator. And to me, it wasn't anything special. It was just, Dad's the commentator.
Yes.
The BMX races, when BMX was in its heyday, there was a track that they ran called Metro West BMX out the back of Liverpool Speedway, and they used to pull in 1,000 kids on a Friday night. Huge numbers. Most of them had parents there, so it was a crowd. It was an event. Yeah. And Dad would do the commentary there, and from a very young age, in between races, if I wasn't chasing the girls or sliding down a hill on a piece of cardboard, I'd go up and stand in the commentary box with him.
Yeah, right.
And it wasn't necessarily what I wanted to do, but I got interested in it because, hey, it's Dad doing it, so if Dad can do it, I can do it. And
that's it.
And that's sort of how it started.
Yeah, right. And sorry, speaking of your rugby league, did you get to play with like some people that actually went into the NRL?
Yeah, played at an early age, about 16, against a young bloke called Fitler.
Oh,
who was playing up a year and just smashed us.
Yeah.
Just, unbelievable. He was a big kid, but he was talented and he had time. And he wasn't a level above. He was 3 levels above anyone else in the competition. It was frightening.
Yeah, of speed, the step, the power.
And, big, strong boy. He might not look it now on your TV. Brad Fitler's not a small man. And, when he was training, and doing weight. So I think he's probably underplaying weight at the moment. Lucky he's probably got a good metabolism. He's a big man, and when something like that is as fast and as powerful as it is, that takes a lot of stopping, especially when you're late teens and you probably physically haven't progressed and matured as much as, guys like him.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Amazing talent. And, do you think he'll still continue doing coaching in the future, Freddie Fitler?
Yeah.
Or is he just happy sort of doing like he's like a Channel 9?
I think he's probably reasonably happy with life at the moment. I think he's got a good job at Channel 9 and a good position there. He's been there a number of years. He's a respected voice. He's a calm voice. And the coaching thing, whilst it didn't work out for him at club level, he is probably more suited as a person to State of Origin.
Yes.
Where he's had wonderful success with good people around him and bloody good footy team as well.
Yes.
But I think Freddie's probably pretty happy with life at the moment.
Yes.
Bit of Origin, bit of TV, a few media spots, and plenty of time with a beautiful young family.
Yeah, that's right. So you're talking about the Speedway as well, and I used to go down there as well. We used to have the Speedway in Newcastle.
The Motordrome.
Yeah, the Motordrome, and used to have a good time. I used to love as a kid, I used to love the Smash 'em Up Derby.
Yeah.
That was good fun. You'd pick one sort of car and away you get. But yeah, as I got a little bit older, I used to go down to the one, I started really getting into it and going down to the Liverpool one. So your dad was actually doing the commentary, and he was like the promoter of the Speedway.
Yeah, he was a gentleman called Frank Oliveri, who's no longer with us, was the owner of the land, a very successful businessman out in southwest Sydney, and he owned the Speedway, and he brought Dad in as the promoter. And this was following on from the halcyon days at the Sydney Showground, which I don't really remember because of age. But at Liverpool, there were seasons on end when it was hot that they would pack it out week after week after week. Well presented, well run, well promoted, and it left the crowd. Dad was always a believer as a promoter of anything. Leave them wanting more.
Yes. So
if it meant having 3 less races and finishing the night early, so be it. You don't want any crowd at any sport to walk out of there saying, oh, God, that was a long night. Gee, that was a long day. You want them walking out, bouncing off the wall, saying, when the hell are we coming back again?
Yes.
And that was the key to Liverpool, and they kept coming back again.
Yeah, absolutely. And it was such a good night. And, I would the 2-hour drive didn't bother me. It was such a good night. It was a fun night. You go back and have a few beers and, just overall, just a good night. So then after that, like in the early 90s, your first sort of broadcasting opportunities was to be the pit reporter.
Yeah.
So tell us about how that all come about.
It was I officially started work on the payroll anyway at Channel 7 in 1990.
Yes.
I finished school in 89, but from about 1986, 1987 onwards of a weekend, because we actually didn't live far from the old Channel 7 studios in Epping. Oh, nice. I'd go up on a weekend and hang around the sports guys and get them lunch, make coffee, fill up their car with petrol, shuffle the papers, do whatever I was told just to be there and see how everything happened.
Yes.
And I think with a lot of work experience kids, they treat it more so as a week off school. I treated my work experience when I did an official week there as the opportunity of a lifetime. And I was the first one in of a morning. I was the last one to leave. And I was led and encouraged and supported by a wonderful group of guys who were working for Seven Sport at that time.
Yes.
And eventually a sort of cadet spot came up, and I believe Dad put it to the team that, you know, give the kid a run.
Yes, yes.
He'll still be making coffees. He'll still be getting lunches. And I believe everyone in the office bar one put their hand up and said, yeah, let's do it. Nothing to lose.
Yes. And
they were wonderful. Not necessarily guys that most people would know from, you know, their screens over a long period of time. But guys, there was a news director called Owen Daly, journalists and presenters, Warren Sim and John Brady, guys like that, just so welcoming and such open books. And, you know, I was probably a late maturer anyway, and I was raw, I was thrown into it, and their help was just phenomenal. I mean, I don't know if it happens these days where a young fella gets literally taken under the wing of an experienced member of any corporation, but they took me under their wing and shielded me when I needed to be shielded, kicked my ass when it needed to be kicked, and there was plenty of them. but they guided me, and for that I can never repay them. Just wonderful memories. And I ended up, and I don't know how, mid-year, might have been 92 or 93, and a position became available on the touring cars.
Yes.
My hand went up.
Yes.
And it is a blur at the moment. It's seriously a blur, but yeah, wonderful. And, you know, I'm a car enthusiast.
Yes.
And I'm at Amaroo Park, beautiful sunny day. Dick Johnson's there, Peter Brock's there, Glenn Seat, you know, Alan Grice, a who's who of Australian motor racing. Yes. And because I'm interviewing them, and I'm not on terms with them, but I was part of it. I got the microphone and we're conversing, and it gave me a huge thrill. I absolutely loved it. And I walked out of there buzzing, and I thought, you know what, this is what you want to do.
Yeah, absolutely. And it says here that you took the role, maybe down the track, that you took the role of Neil Crompton, who went on to do like a sort of like a commentary sort of role. Yeah, is that a fair statement, or?
I think Neil had been moved into commentary well before that,
right?
Or sometime before that. I cannot for the life of me quite remember who the position was in front of me. I know Cameron Williams, who is still in the media now and doing really well for himself over at Channel 9. He was used in the pits as well. And look, it might have even been a case of Cameron had news duties, or Cameron had the weekend off, and I was filling in for him.
Yeah.
Whatever the scenario was that led up to that decision, I'm grateful for it.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, I actually saw, like, I was doing some searching on YouTube, and I saw one with Steve Walters. You did a documentary with Steve Walters. Yeah, tell us about that.
We did a rally of Canberra with Steve Walters, and the sponsors put up their hand. They wanted some airtime on Channel 7. And so I was the guinea pig, and Steve Walters, who I hadn't met at that stage, was the driver.
Right.
And you couldn't get away with it now, but we met in Canberra at 6 a.m, shook hands and jumped into the car, and off we went through the forest, and we had an absolute blast of a time. And there was cameras in the car, there were cameras scattered over the track, and we told the story of the Canberra Rally. Well, one racer didn't complete the day, which meant we were 137th out of 138. So we figured it's not going to be the fairy tale finish to this story. It's we suck as a driver and as a navigator. And I think we may have had a beer or two that night, and may or may not have wandered straight from the casino to the car to go in day 2 of the rally. Yeah. And we ended up riding off the little Daihatsu Charade. Still talk about it with Steve to this day. If I see him somewhere, we still have a laugh.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you still see him around, like in the rugby league? Is he sort of?
Still see him around. I'm really good mates with his brother Kevy.
Right.
And if I don't see Steve, I'll have a chat to him on the phone if I'm in the car with Kevy. Wonderful family, the Walters boys. Yes. Always have been, always will be. And whatever they've achieved in life, they've deserved it. But the most important thing for me is it's never changed them. They literally have not changed in 30 years. Stunning family.
And you know what? That's the thing. Like a genuine good bloke. They can be on the TV all the time. They can have this amazing career, but at the end of the day, we're all just human beings. So
you can have the greatest resume in the world.
Yes.
But if you're an arsehole, you're an arsehole.
That's right.
And Australians don't cop that. Apologies for swearing, by the way.
No, that's okay.
We just like good blokes, and we tolerate good blokes. And if you're not a good bloke, get lost.
That's right. Yeah, and you can definitely tell it when you go traveling around the world. Oh, you're Aussie? Oh, okay, coming in. You want to have a beer? It's always like we have this real good reputation, and
yeah, we do. We've got a good rep, don't we? I've done a lot of traveling and travelled around the States, and the last couple of times my wife and I have been to the States, we've done huge road trips, and so you're not going through big cities and big towns. We're going back roads.
Yes.
And you turn up in the middle of Kentucky or Mississippi at these tiny little places. You say you're Australian, and they just look at you to say, how did you get here and why are you here? But come on in, let's have a beer. We've got a great reputation around the world.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. So you were there for quite a long time, and then you went on to work with the Daily Telegraph.
No Daily Telegraph. I think that could be a Wikipedia liar. Someone told me recently. Yeah, I know. Someone told me recently that Wikipedia's got Daily Telegraph and that I've authored 2 books.
2 books, yeah.
My English teacher back at Muirfield High School in 1989 could have told you that I would never write a book in my bloody life. They would have also told you that I'm not talented enough to work at the Daily Telly. Yeah. I did Channel 7 for 7 years, and then moved across to Fox Sports in April of 97. And that was at a period where they were just kicking off the Super League. The Bill Morty fight nights were every 3rd week or every 4th weekend. Yeah, Fox Sports was doing the MotoGP and the Superbikes, and also acting as the host broadcaster down at Phillip Island. So we'd spend best part of 3 weeks at Phillip Island every year, 10 days for the GP, 10 days for the Superbikes. Wonderful times to be in the media, and anyone that has been in the media over an extended period will tell you, that the 1990s were fabulous before. It was when television people ran television stations, not the accountants.
Yes.
That's just the way of the world now. The accountants run every company
It's
in the world. It is what it is, and it might not feel right, but it is right financially, and it's not worth whinging or complaining about. But there was money to spend to better the product.
yes.
And under an executive producer called Saul Stein, Fox Sports at Phillip Island did some of the most amazing television stuff you will ever see. It was innovative. It was on the mark in terms of performance. There were never any failures, and it was, a really positive time.
Yeah, right. And I can remember because my father got Foxtel very, very early in that time. And I was just talking about this the other day, how good it was to watch all the programs on Foxtel at that time, because I think it was like Sports Channel, there was a movie channel, and there was only like maybe 10, 15 channels, and there was no ads at all. And the sports was live, there was no BS. So it was really, really, really good to watch,
It's good to watch, Craig, and it was equally as good to work in. And you just pointed to something, quite important. There were no commercial breaks.
Yes.
So they would roll the oak for a day at Phillip Island for Friday, Saturday, Sunday. So practice, qualifying, and race day. We were on air from 8 in the morning until 6 at night. No commercial breaks, and just go. And it was balls out. There was a rundown. There was a million stories to tell.
Yes.
But when and if things go pear-shaped, it's up to you to think on your feet. Now, we had one of the very first Phillip Islands we did. The rain became torrential. It was horrific. And there was no action on the track, but we had to keep going. And Warren Smith and Kevin McGee were in the commentary box. Cameron Williams was hosting, and this little fella was down in pit lane. And I was rugged up, umbrella, and the poor guys had gone on, for 45, 50 minutes, probably and some, talking about what could happen and what's happening with the weather. No commercial breaks to throw to. So they're starting to struggle. I've walked up one end of the pits and taken the camera and the producer and floor manager with me. And we've done 34 minutes by ourselves off the top of our head. I started at one end of the pits and started talking, and I'd walk into the garage. I'd just push people away and say, Anthony Gober, what's doing with this weather? Or Colin Edwards, Aaron Slight, all these different people. And we just kept going and going and going. And I can hear in my ear the executive producer, Saul, saying, AJ, this is brilliant. Keep going. Keep going for as long as you want, or as long as you can.
Yes.
And I, at the end of that, threw back to, Wazza and Magoo and whatnot. And then they did the same thing. They filled for another 45 minutes. And to be able to do that in a group environment, because it is far from just the person you see on TV. Yes. It's the cameraman knowing where you're going and what you're thinking. It's the floor manager being able to arrange things just behind the camera. It's the producer talking to the producer over in the truck, letting them know, what name's going to come up on the screen next. To be able to achieve something like that is something really, really special. And we all walked out of there that day feeling, bloody pleased with ourselves. Again, it's just part of the television learning curve.
Yes.
I recall the first main event boxing pay-per-view I called was Anthony Mundine, Lester Ellis, down at the National Tennis Centre in Melbourne. and in between the semi-main event and the main event, there was like a 54 or 64 minute delay, and the delay was over money back in the dressing room. And there was a fabulous shot of Coda Nasser, who was Anthony Mundine's manager, standing in the toilet with Lester Ellis's brother, talking about the contract, because they were saying, Lester Ellis was saying, if we don't get paid before the fight, we're not fighting.
Oh, no.
That was my first main event commentary, and we talked. No ads, we talked. And somehow, with with the best directors and producers and talent in the world, we were able to get through it. And they're the times that I look back on. Not saying it, the career's over, but I look back very fondly on moments and challenges like that, where you can walk away with a real personal satisfaction.
Definitely. And it definitely sort of, you're learning through that whole period, what to do in those sorts of situations, because you might see, and it's easy now. Oh, let's throw to an ad break.
That's right. Yeah. If everything turns to shit now, the old line is we'll be back after the break.
Yeah, that's right. But that's why you had some quality moments on that TV, because you'll be able to, keep talking and keep it entertaining and interesting. You know what I mean?
My wife has almost convinced me, but she's been saying for years that she believes I'm at my best when there's no script and it's just go.
Yes.
Which is quite a bizarre thing. A lot of what we do, all do, is scripted, and in some cases heavily scripted.
Yes.
But yeah, I think when it's time to think and then act is probably when I'm at my best. And there's a couple of interviews over the years that I've done with no notice whatsoever, and they stand out.
Yes.
Because
can you give me an example?
Yeah. One more recently was the Cameron Smith, Jonathon Thurston testimonial game.
Right.
They had in the pouring rain at Suncorp Stadium. And I mean, it was a game of footy, but it was more a trial game to be honest. And at the end of the game, we weren't going to do anything, so I hadn't planned on any interviews. And the producer said, mate, go out, gave me 60 seconds or 2 minutes notice, go out at the end of the game and have a chat with them and see if you can do them together. And it ended up on the spot going for, 4 or 5 minutes, I guess. And it was instantaneous, it was emotional, and it was Cameron Smith and Jonathon Thurston like you have never, ever heard them talk before, because they were comfortable with me. They were comfortable about where I was going.
Yes.
And I look back at that and think, yeah, that was one of the better ones.
Raw emotion right there.
Raw emotion, and raw emotion in sport it rocks. I mean, sport, and in particular rugby league, is the ultimate reality TV.
Yes.
It's got it all there, for me anyway.
Yeah, I totally agree. And, going back to the boxing as well, like you were doing the boxing there for quite a long time, and I tried to remember what the name of it was, but Big Time Boxing.
Yeah, that's it.
You'd watch the footy of the night time, and then when that finished, normally Big Time Boxing would be on after that, and you'd be all over the country, sort of doing that. So tell us what that experience was like as well.
Great experience.
Yeah.
And going to the boxing in the kickboxing in the late 90s, early 2000s, it was like walking onto the set of Underbelly. Always a very colourful crowd.
Yes.
Wonderful athletes, amazingly focused and driven, disciplined, mad as all hell. all of them. I've not met a sane boxer yet. And I say that in due respect. You've got to be crazy to do that.
Yes.
I loved it. I didn't. To be fair, I didn't always like the politics and the nonsense.
Yes.
That went on with.
Oh, you got a visitor there. Speaking of live
TV, live podcast. What am I?
There you go.
What do you want, mate?
There he is.
Hello.
He just wants a pat.
And, mate, all he does all day is sit underneath my feet here in the office, and he's as happy as all hell. Yeah, so the raw emotion of sport, wonderful, and it's hard not to get personally invested in a night of the boxing when there is such more raw and aggressive emotion. Great nights, great times. Didn't always enjoy the politics. Yes, didn't always enjoy the BS. Loved when the bell rang.
And your team there as well. You had Angelo Hyder and Paul Upham. Good team there.
Worked with so many, wonderful people, from Angelo Hyder to Paul Upham to Jeff Fennick and Danny Green and Chris McCullen.
You would have done all those Mundine Green fights, right?
Yeah, exactly right. So, I've worked with, a wonderful array of guys that have all brought something a little bit different to the commentary position. And when you bring something different to the commentary position, you bring a different perspective into a lounge room, which is pretty cool. I think we in television get quite insular about what's right and what's correct and what things should be, as opposed to saying, what do the punters want to watch? What do the punters want to listen to? How do they want their information delivered? That's just my opinion. There's plenty of executives that'll argue that. But yeah, really lucky to work with some wonderful people on the boxing, and I smile just thinking about some of the good times.
And where do you see the boxing in Australia at the moment? Do you see it like a future? Because at that Danny Green, Mundine period, that was the peak.
Yeah, it was fire, wasn't it?
Everybody was talking about Mundine and Danny Green, and so where do you see like the future of boxing for Australia?
I got into trouble a couple of years ago for saying this, but I don't care because I'll say it again. Who runs Rugby League? The NRL.
Yes.
Who runs Rugby Union? The ARU. Same with the AFL. As a result, their business is financially controlled. It's quality controlled. It's got an effective financial business plan and a strategic development. A strategic development plan. They know where they're going. Yeah. Boxing in Australia, if you and I want to put on a night, we can. And we just have to, fill in the appropriate forms, get the appropriate insurance, and we can go and do it. The governing body here is unable to get everyone together and push in the one direction. And until that happens, boxing will remain a second or third tier sport, and it'll remain splintered, unfortunately, because you've got different promoters wanting to go different directions for different reasons. Different fighters want to go different directions for different reasons. Until everyone in Australian boxing is in together and ready to push in the one direction for the betterment of the business and future, it just can't work as successfully.
Sort of little plateaus, doesn't it? It doesn't sort of get.
It does.
Improved.
Like Jeff Horn's win over Manny Pacquiao at Suncorp Stadium.
Yes.
Wow. And boxing was back in the news. Tim Tszyu, an absolute gun.
Yes.
Is he the future? And he's got a future inside the ring. No doubt. will he be able to propel Australia to the next level without the assistance of the entire industry behind him? I don't know. The sad thing is, I'm not having a dig at Australian boxing because that's what world boxing is.
Yes.
There's 4 major organisations that don't care about each other or the other person and don't work with the other organisation or the other person. They promote what they want, when they want, and how they want. Which is why Dana White has got the UFC and the MMA pumping so successfully, because he is at the top of their pyramid governing the whole company. Until that happens on a global scale, and it won't, because there's too much money to be had in boxing, it will never, I believe, reach its full potential.
Yeah, and that's a shame too, because I can remember when I would go to the Newcastle Workers Club. It's Panthers now. They would always have a boxing or mixed martial arts or something there.
Oh, it's Panthers.
Yeah, so I remember going. Yeah, and Fox Sports used to come there, and always good times there. But recently, even though I'm living in Shanghai, but even when I come back, it's just sort of gone away now, and it's a shame,
It is. I think a lot of kids too are not going to the boxing gym anymore. They're going to the MMA gyms. They see Conor McGregor or they see John Jones or whoever it may be, and they want to replicate them. Whereas back 2 generations, you wanted to replicate Barry Michael or Jeff Fennick.
Yes.
Times change.
Yeah, that's true. So speaking of mixed martial arts, and maybe not as heavy or hard as the mixed martial arts, there's always some bumps, but pro wrestling.
Yeah.
You've been very, very involved with pro wrestling here in Australia as well. Yeah. I've been a big fan since, I can remember getting up early in the morning to, watch Hulk Hogan and Randy Savage and I still watch it today, not as much as I used to, but I still watch the pay-per-views and all that. But tell us about the Australian wrestling. You had a promotion there from 2002 to 2005.
Yeah, it was 2002, 2005. We had the Australian Wrestling Super Show.
Yes.
We picked a couple of guys from each of the organisations and/or states and put them all in together with a bit of a different marketing plan to what the other companies did, and we had one on Fox Sports, and the other 4 were very successful. Was a really good boost for Aussie wrestling. Unfortunately, with Aussie wrestling, and we got some awesome athletes and some even better minds. It came in roughly at the same time where, for I think back in those days, Foxtel was $40 a month.
Yes.
$40 a month, you could watch the best in the world do their thing from your own living room and watch it live. You didn't have to go and pay to go to an event in a smaller venue with not as well known athletes, and that's the challenge that a lot of smaller or localized sports face with. The world is so big now because of computers and television and pay television and streaming services.
Yes.
It's too easy, mate, to sit on our ass and watch sport as opposed to going to the sport.
Yes. And did you have interactions with them? I've seen I can remember watching Raw and SmackDown there, and there was times there where we only had Raw at one stage.
Raw was on a 2-week delay.
Yes, and I know that you were sort of always on before the Raw campaigning for it to So what was the background behind that? Was it just a contract with the WWE? They just wouldn't.
That's all it was a contract with the WWE or WWF as it was. And it stipulated, for whatever reason, I think it was a 10-day minimum turnaround. And then another show started. It may well have been SmackDown. And as a result, timelines and commentary stories were completely diluted and completely confusing, because they were saying one thing on this show and they were saying something else from 10 days ago.
Right.
I mean, it was just bizarre. So I campaigned for that with my boss at Fox Sports, David Malone, and I think he gave up. He gave up and gave in just to get me out of the office. And we ended up getting Raw on live, and SmackDown was live. And since it's been, a wonderful addition to Foxtel.
Absolutely. It's hugely successful. And I can remember every time they would come out there, you'd be there interviewing like the superstars,
Yeah, I've got some good photos. Again, probably somewhere at Mum's. Either that or the ex-wife burnt them. Interviewing, Vince McMahon or Triple H, Jericho, Edge, those guys.
So stop there. Vince McMahon, like not too many people, like even the main promoters of the wrestling get a chance to interview Vince McMahon. So tell us about that experience. Wow.
Really, really cool. Actually got to interview him twice in the space of about an hour and a half. Once was in front of an audience and once was in a closed room at the old Sydney Showgrounds. And it was about a 40-minute interview, and it was pretty close to a shoot interview. If I knew where it was today, it would be gold. Very intimidating bloke. Size-wise, he's a giant.
Yes.
Or was. That's 20 years ago.
Yes.
Big man. Very intimidating. Very polite, businesslike. No BS about him.
Yes.
But a guy with that aura that was, just awesome. Really was. He was accommodating, but he also let you know that he was in charge of the situation.
Yes.
And you weren't. Cool by me.
That's just his aura. Just his,
exactly.
And what a person, what a character, took wrestling from nothing to, a multi-billion-dollar industry. And so would you still be involved, like if they were to come out? I know they've rescheduled to come out to Australia next year, the Raw brand. Will you still be involved with them? Will you go out and do interviews?
I don't know. I was doing a lot of it through Fox back in the day. I haven't done it for a couple of years, but I'd always put my hand up because, little bit of fun and a good giggle and met some decent guys along the way as well. Yeah.
Excellent. So, you've done wrestling, but let's back to rugby league. So, when Fox Sports started, is that when you started with the rugby league with Fox Sports?
No, Fox started in '95, and I moved over in '97, which was when the Super League started. So there was no rugby league on Fox for the best part of 2 years.
So sorry, I've been talking about that a lot recently over the last couple of interviews of the Super League, the war. Sorry, can you give us a little bit of insight on your side of the Super League war?
Madness.
Yeah,
utter madness. And I was a young news journalist at the time, and it was really infant days of mobile phones. Not everyone had them.
Yes.
And so communication was pages. You go into the news camera car and you might use the CB or if you had a phone. But there was 20 things happening every hour. And then you might be in Phillip Street in the middle of Sydney waiting for the Newcastle Knights to come in on the bus. Yeah. And you would hear that in Surrey Hills at Holt Street at the News Limited offices, the Penrith Panthers have just walked in. So 20 cars, all the news stations and radio stations would run down there, and then Channel 7 and Channel 9 would do a deal, and Channel 10 and ABC would do it. So there were cameras and people everywhere. footballers and managers and coaches darting in and out. There were side deals galore. An amazing time that saw football, for the players, take off, but for the fans, left us with a slap on the face.
Yes, agreed.
I don't know if anyone changes anything, if they could go back and do it again.
Yes.
But it was Kerry Packer versus Rupert Murdoch. That's to my understanding. That's what it came down to.
Yes.
It was about a belief system. It was about their parent media companies and all of that. But it was also a one-on-one personal battle between Kerry and Rupert. May the better man win.
Yes. And do you think in the long term it's been financial for the NRL?
How do we say that now when we've got nothing?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. And that's something that I haven't really asked too much. But how do we lose all that money? How are we broke? With Fox Sports, with Channel 9, with all the sponsorship. I mean, I don't know the whole background of it, but. Yeah. Surely, just like in general, like how do you lose all that money? And you've got State of Origin as big as it is now,
So many income streams from Rugby League that it is astonishing how that money is not in the bank or not invested somewhere. And I'm not a financial expert or financial planner, so I can't say what they should have done, It'd almost be different if you found someone had stolen money from the NRL and gone, oh, well, someone's flogged it.
Yes.
But it's actually been misspent.
Yes. Yeah.
I mean, how? I can understand a couple of grand here or 20 grand here. Oh, we spent it there and we don't have it in the bank. But we're talking billions of dollars. I mean,
yes.
Where's it gone? Wow.
It's just so frustrating, and
isn't it?
And there was also a time, like being a big Knights fan, where we thought that we might not even have a team in the competition. There's been a couple of times like we wanted to have a team in the competition. Like we had to get who was the
Nathan Tinkler.
Yeah, Tinkler. How could I forget his name? To come in, and now we've got West Leagues to come in now. So I think from the Knights' point as well, like where is their money going as well? I mean, so I'm glad that they're with West and they're much more financial and they're bigger and better things, and we've got a good solid team there now, and Caleb Ponga, and so let's talk about Caleb Ponga. He's the sort of you've seen a lot of footballers in your career. Caleb Ponga, he's like future. If he stays fit.
Sky's the limit.
Yeah.
I don't think he's the best young fella I've seen coming through. That's just a personal opinion.
Yeah.
But he's certainly up there in the conversation. He's tough as nails, and that's one part of Caleb that hasn't been recognised yet. But in speaking to those around him, tough young kid. And when they say tough, I interpret that as mentally and physically. And we probably haven't seen that side of Caleb presented yet. I have no doubt we will. Mate, the kid's a superstar and he's marketable too.
Yes, absolutely. So again, looking through some YouTube clips and some bloopers over your career, I saw one from and I think I was actually no, I don't know if I was watching it at the time, but it was at Shark Park, and you were doing in the actual grandstand of the Shark Park. Not only once did he fall over, this little boy fell over twice. Can you sort of give us a rundown on that?
I was doing a pre-recorded piece. It must have been on a Monday night down at Shark Park, and I was standing on the edge of the lower deck grandstand where there's the tiered seating in front of me. And it had been raining, so the seats are slippery. And little mate, and he must have been, I guess, 10 years of age, decided that it might be fun if he jumped over the seats behind me. Well, he got to my left shoulder and jumped over and got his foot caught and went head first into the concrete, got up, dusted himself off, and in the next motion went over the next chair, did the same again, has gone whack, whack, and then got up and sat down like this. Absolutely brilliant. And all I could hear was a little commotion behind me, and I had no idea what was happening. Yeah. The reason we had to stop was because the cameraman lost it, so the camera's shaking. Audio guys in fits, the lighting guys are shaking the lights, laughing. Yeah. But yeah, I've since seen that. It's a beauty, absolute beauty.
And speaking of the NRL and Fox Sports, you went on it was like a promotion, the Fox League road trip.
Yeah, we've done a few road trips, and I've helped them out with the Queensland and North and Central Queensland leagues, where they got the crew to go out and say good day to the locals and put on sportsmen's nights, for lack of better terms, and well received, good fun.
Yes.
People were offered and invited to sign up to Foxtel on the night. All good fun with a good bunch of fellas and girls, should I say?
Yeah, absolutely. And so let's talk about your family now. You're happily married to Terry. Yep. Was that 2017? And of all places, I do believe, now correct me if I'm wrong, that you actually got married in Cuba. Is that correct?
Yes, we did. It was second time round for both of us. So we didn't want to make a big deal of it, but we've been together for best part of 10 years, I think 9 years at the time. And we had done a trip across the States. We ended up in New York. Somehow she ended up in Tiffany's Jewelers, and a ring was purchased.
Yes.
And we decided we're going to Cuba next anyway for a week.
Yes.
Let's just do it there. But yeah, do it on the beach there. Wow. We still had to sign official papers when we got back to Australia, and that was all cool. But for all intents and purposes, November 10 was the date, and that's the anniversary of when we did it in Cuba. And it was cool and very us, really us. We're both very laid back, very easy, and we rang the folks afterwards and said, "Guess what?" and both, they were all delighted. Yeah, I think.
And where did you meet Terry? Was it through the sporting sort of?
Through events, yeah.
Yes.
Terry's an event producer. Yes. Even though the world of events has come crashing down over the last 2 months, and now her official job is my boss.
Right.
That's what her official title is at the moment, I think.
It's changed over.
She often says she's not telling me what to do, she's just offering advice.
All right. Isn't that sort of like a parent sort of thing?
Correct.
And you said that your mum is still living in Sydney, right?
Yeah, mum still lives in Sydney. We lost Dad at the end of last year, which was horrific. And as anyone that has been through that knows, it's tough and it takes time, and it is tough and it is taking time. Very different guy off camera to what those that saw him on TV would have pictured. Difficult for mum. They've been married for 50-something years, best mates. But we're all moving on. We're a great family unit,
Yes,
and one that I wouldn't change ever. And we're all we're not moving on. We're moving forward. That's probably a better way to put it. Yeah.
And I did read online that you want to think of the good memories, just like with every good man or woman, that's not here anymore. You want to think of the good times and all that, and again everybody commenting, giving you support, at the time of need. And to some, maybe I'm a little bit young, but for that, but he was like the voice of motorsport racing in Australia.
Yeah, he was. He a big man with a big heart and a big legacy. Yes. He was involved for many years in many different forms of motorsport. He was probably the guy that was instrumental in moving back to V8 racing, that is the supercars that we see now. Absolute professional, absolute gentleman, and
now what was the best advice that he gave you?
Be yourself.
Yeah,
and that's not on camera, or not specifically on camera. That's just in life. Be yourself. Lord knows I've made mistakes, many of them embarrassing ones,
yes,
and far too big. None of us are perfect. I was being me, and I learnt from them, dusted myself off, and kept going. And there's a difference between not caring what anyone thinks about you or just being yourself. And I do care what people think and how I project myself, and I'm conscious of that.
Yes.
I'm me, and I make no apologies for that. I'm me, and then it's up to you to form your opinion. But pretending or anything like that to be something that you're not,
yes,
not me.
And that's the whole strong character, being able to laugh at yourself, if you make a mistake, haha, but learn from it, and just be nice to people in general. So, that's very, very, very good advice. So, let's get close to wrapping it up. I always like to do like a couple of short, little, quick questions, and you give me, like a short response.
Yep.
Are you ready to go, Andy?
Let's do it.
All right. Modern day wrestling.
New Japan, brilliant.
Yes.
WWE, anything but. I watch New Japan, and I watch a little bit of NXT. I watch the Royal Rumble and WrestleMania and nothing else.
Yes. And have you watched any of AEW, the recent?
I haven't as yet. I will at some stage.
Mm-hmm.
But no, I will have a peek at that. But I'm a New Japan guy.
Excellent.
Yeah, love it.
I'm going to have to get into that because a lot of people are talking about New Japan.
Yeah.
Yep. The NRL bunker.
There for all the right reasons.
Mm-hmm.
I would assume has improved the statistics of right to wrong decisions.
Mm.
Never going to be perfect because there are human elements involved. I think it's a blight on the media and the fans that we focus too much on the referee and the bunker, because that's what we're now trained to do.
Exactly.
I would rather talk about the football. Talking about refs and talking about the bunker, to me, is the most boring topic in the world. They don't get it right all the time, but hey, neither do we.
And the same with the grand final last year. And, I'm going to the game, like, they spend so much time on the bunk, like going up and watching it and watching it live. You want it to be non-stop, like we were talking about before. You want it to be continuing. So, let's hope this year it's improved. And speaking of that, one referee now for this season.
We went to 2 referees for a reason.
That's right. Everybody was complaining about the one referee. We should have 2.
It'll change. It's not going to change in the next 2 weeks. You'll see a significant change after about round 5 or 6 when coaches figure out how to manipulise. I think I've just invented a word. How to manipulate the one refereeing system. We're still going to be talking refs and blowing up. So
that's right. Peter V'landys. Peter V'landys. Did I say that right?
Yeah, no, I think you nailed it. I haven't met Pete. Seems to have done a fabulous job, and congratulations to him. I don't think the game would be where it is now without Peter V'landys, but I don't think it would be where it is now also without Todd Greenberg. I'm a Todd fan as a person and an operator.
I'm sure you've had a lot to do with Todd over the years, yeah.
Always struck me as a good fella and a good operator. There was someone didn't want him there, and they got their way.
All right. And back to wrestling. Your top. Everybody talks about their, top 5 all-time wrestlers.
Okay, could be a history lesson here.
Okay, are you going like to the Australian wrestling? No.
I'll Ray the Crippler Stevens, number 1. If you're listening to this and you haven't seen Ray Stevens, there's a bit on him on the WWE Network. There's more of him on YouTube. Genuine tough guy and a traveller from probably the 60s, 70s, maybe into the 80s, and widely regarded as, the worker's worker. Incredible bumper, ring psychology, loved him. I would include Harley Race and Terry, who have both given me great joy over the years. As for positions 4 and 5, Kazuchika Okada from New Japan, who's there at the moment. Amazing athlete, amazing storytelling, and has a legitimate feel to him. And maybe even Minoru Suzuki, the 53 or 54-year-old legend. Again, another New Japan guy who can make you believe what he's doing is legit. That's off the top of the head. I'm going to rattle on. And present an argument for each and every one of them. Let me throw Bruiser Brody in there too.
Oh, Bruiser Brody. I just saw that behind the dark side of the ring, yes. That was great.
Some interesting ones on that, some amazing insights and some, horrible stories, unfortunately.
Yeah, Montreal Screwjob and, Bret Hart recently. Owen Hart, sorry.
Yeah,
Owen Hart. Yeah, excellent. Cameron Smith.
Best in the game and has been for a number of years. To me, has always been genuine, polite, respectful, and accommodating, and very pleasant.
Yes.
Has he got an intense side? Absolutely. Does he push the referees to their limits and the opposition to their limits? Absolutely. Is that his job? Yep. The Cameron Smith, away from it all, I think most people would be pleasantly surprised, but he's the GOAT.
Yes. And in terms of commentating, you're besides yourself, a couple of commentators that have meant a lot to you in your career?
Majority career, especially Monday nights and the old Monday night team of Warren Smith, Laurie Daly, Greg Alexander, and myself. We did Monday nights pretty much as long as they were there.
Yes.
And travelled around the country together and lent on each other when we needed to, and gave a ribbing to each other when we needed to. You know, thoroughly enjoyed working with those guys. Got a real kick over the last couple of years of working with that absolute weirdo Andrew Voss. He's just non-stop, and we enjoyed some wonderful laughs. I mean, hysterical type stuff in commentary boxes before, during, and after games, I might say. And yeah, he's a beauty as well.
Does he enjoy a beer, old Vossi?
Yeah, but he's more responsible than me.
Oh, okay.
Yep, to enjoy a beer and go to bed.
Yeah.
I'll enjoy a beer and go to the bar.
Again, it's just funny how we're talking about these people that you've met and you've worked with, and just how down to earth they are. You know, just really nice people.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's just so important, you know.
I agree.
Yeah. And what advice would you give to someone who wants to come into the journalism, you know, on TV? Yep. Is it very similar to what your father would say, or do you have something sort of similar to add to it?
Hold on and don't blink. And when I say hold on, it's a wild ride of emotion. There are so many political beasts out there that it is ridiculous, and it's a game that I've never played, nor do I care about playing. It's not what I'd term a nice industry, which is sad, because there's a whole lot of nice people. There really is, and the majority are. But you've always got to check the shoulder to see who's got the knife. And don't blink, because you hear this from your grandfather and your uncles and whatnot. But 30 years in the industry and 23 years at Fox has gone in the blink of an eye. It really has. But enjoy it. I think it's harder to getting into now. The television side, it seems ex-players are the ones that have got the right in there, rightfully so, for their opinion and for what they've done in the game. But be yourself, and that again, not just on camera. It's what my dad told me: be yourself. And I've done that on camera and off camera. But if you're going into journalism, be yourself. Believe in yourself. Have your opinion. But be yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. There was one more thing. Sorry, was Ivan Cleary. It was last year, and you were in the green, and you actually heard them talking to the referee.
Yeah.
What the hell happened there?
Again, I've not once have I ever done anything personal in or against anyone in the game. I get paid to report on what I find out. Yes. And I was standing next to Ivan, and he spoke to the refs, swore at the refs, and I reported it. Next thing I know, there's a shitstorm about it, and I get a call from the NRL, would you make a statement? And I said, no, I've made my statement on air. I'm happy to leave it like that. Yes. And they said, oh, okay. They called me back in a couple of days later. They said, we've got a statement from Ivan. Would you like to make a statement? So I spoke to my bosses at work, and I said, okay. And I just told them exactly what I told our viewers as soon as it happened on Fox Sports. Yeah. And the NRL turned around and basically discredited me. And, you shouldn't have to choose one or the other, but why would I report something? Why would I make something up? I didn't mishear. And I've spoken to Ivan since, and very simply, two guys that have known each other 30 years. Yes. We've got a we don't have a personal relationship. We have a professional relationship, and that'll continue until we're both out of the industry. And we just agreed to disagree. Yeah. I said, I heard what I heard, and he believes what he said. We disagree, so be it. But for the NRL to plead with me, let me rephrase that. For the NRL to ask me sternly twice for an account of what happened, then to turn their back on me, screw them.
Yeah. And with the boxing as well, will we ever see another Mundine, Danny Green in the future?
Someone will come along. Tim Sue's doing a good job at the moment. Jeff Horn's done a great job. Whether it will garner the volume of media exposure that Anthony has and does, I doubt it. We've lived through a pretty good generation of athletes, and
absolutely,
and different guys living their dreams on the television for us to enjoy in our lounge rooms. And Chock, love him or hate him, has been one of them. He's added excitement and entertainment to our sporting viewing, and
absolutely,
he's going to be hard to replicate.
Yeah. And have you had interactions with him and his father?
Oh God, I've known him and Dad for 32 years.
Wow.
And Mum Lynn.
And sorry, Andy, is he like that outside of the? Because to me, it's a bit of a show when he comes on. He's like a bit of an entertainer. Here's the microphone.
Yep. What he says sells tickets. When he sells tickets, he makes money.
That's right.
I often get asked about Anthony, and my standard response is, if you sat down with him for 10 minutes, you'd fall in love, like the rest of us do. Yeah. He is just an outstanding fella that turns into a dickhead when there's a microphone in front of him. Sorry, John.
Some of the things that he said have just been just shake
headbutt a wall type stuff.
That's right. But you gotta love him. But Australia's, he's almost an Australian icon, in my opinion. Yeah. He's just he's done so much. So, Andy, is there anything that you want to sort of promote? Any endorsements? You've been the MC for, so long. You've done all these corporate business work and all that. So, is there anything you would like to promote?
No, not at the moment. I thank you for having me on to start with. A great honour. Anyone that's listened and enjoyed any part of the podcast, I thank you, and I thank you even more for the support that people have shown me over the last couple of weeks. It's been humbling. It's been embarrassing. It's been emotional. And it has caught me completely by surprise. For the moment, I am going to sit back with a pizza and a beer tonight and all across the weekend and watch the footy and yell at the commentators, swear at the players. And it's going to be bloody lovely.
Get him back to 10, Rev.
Exactly.
And final question, what does the future hold for Andy?
I don't know. I've had a few phone calls already, which has stunned me. I'm not in a position at the moment to make any huge decisions. I'm going to look after myself for a couple of weeks. I'm going to make sure my head's clear and my focus is right. I'm a believer in what will be, and whatever's meant to be, that's where we'll end up, Craig.
Well, Andy, we definitely have to, if we crossed paths, I definitely would love to have a beer with you one day and talk more about wrestling and rugby league, and I think that's what we should do. But yeah, I think I spoke about it earlier, how I actually did meet you once at the Panthers, Panthers for the wrestling.
I would have been running around like a maniac.
You were. You had your two phones, and you were like just going crazy. But I just want to say, everybody talks about like the voices of like all watching the rugby league on Foxtel.
Yeah.
Who was it? It was you. So you've given me some great times, some great memories, and again, in my opinion, with online, on the ground, it just felt for you. It's just natural. And just talking as a person. You're not sort of the fanboy, or you're not sort of you were just yourself. And like you've said it, and that's a great credit to you. For
yourself.
And, that's right. And I'm sure you just wait.
I hope so, mate.
Things will come for you. Don't worry.
Thank you, buddy. It's been a pleasure.
All right. Thanks for your time again. And you're following Parramatta still?
Yes.
Parramatta fans.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Parramatta to win tonight by how many?
8.
8. Right. 8. And I will be cheering my Knights team again. Go Knights. We've got a couple of young boys in the team this week, but it'll be good to see how they go. So, yep.
Awesome. Good game.
All right, Andy. Thank you very much. Thanks very much for your time.
Look after yourself. Bye, everyone.
You too. Bye for now.
Yeah.